Welcome back to Halls of Atonement. This dungeon is returning in Season 3 of The War Within, so let's see what these grounds have in store. Before you're able to pull Halkias, you'll need to make sure you've defeated all 3 sin-staining Goliaths and that this power bar at the top of your screen is at 100%. Halkias is quite unique because its encounter space moves with the boss. So once you engage the boss, there will be a circle around him. If you're not inside of this sin light protection, you will be feared indefinitely, so make sure everyone is close and ready before pulling. This boss is straightforward after that. He will smash the tank with Crumbling Slam, which will deal heavy physical damage to the tank and group damage to your party. It will also leave behind shards of glass in its wake, so you're going to want to make sure you move the boss slightly whenever these are spawned. Following the large tank hit, Halkias will attempt to lob debris at a random player, dealing sonic damage to the group and leaving behind more glass. As you can imagine, this will take up a bit of floor space, so try to keep glass shards near each other. Tanks with strong defensives can even stack the shard pools, maximizing floor space and minimizing movement. Once the Goliath reaches 100 energy, Halkias will shoot beams out in cardinal directions that will begin to rotate. Be sure to rotate with the Goliath to avoid getting hit by these beams, but do be careful because once the cast reaches 50%, it has a chance to change directions. Once this cast is complete, it's simply a rinse and repeat. Echelon is an ad control fight. Periodically throughout the encounter, he's going to summon 2 sets of ads on either side of the room. There is a short grace period before these mobs begin spamming bolts, so try to refrain from doing damage immediately so they stack up. Interrupt and group these ads as fast as possible, and once they're gathered, do your best to blow them up. It's worth noting that when these ads reach 0% health, they will do some group damage, but they will also turn to stone, regenerating all of their health over the next 30 seconds. The reason this is important to get these mobs stacked is that the boss will eventually try to turn a player into stone over 4 seconds. That player will need to run into the stacked mobs that are defeated. Once that player is stunned, the boss will leap on them, dealing damage and shattering all the stone ads in the process. During the encounter, the boss will also cast Blood Torrent, which will leave behind pools of blood in its wake, dealing shadow damage to any player caught within them. Ideally, ranged players will try to bait these towards the edge of the room. The boss will then just repeat these mechanics until defeated. This boss is quite simple and quite a small encounter space. The boss will occasionally cast a bolt at the tank. This needs to be interrupted and can typically be covered by a few melee DPS and the tank. This does deal heavy magic damage if left interrupted, so the tank will need to use a large defensive. Throughout the fight, the boss will target 2 players with a damage over time effect that will deal damage to anyone caught in the circle upon expiration. Healers are going to want to dispel these as quickly as you can, and players who are left with the damage over time effect on them will want to use a defensive. The last major mechanic of the fight is when she calls a spirit into the room. This ad will fixate a random player and chase them down. While it's active, it will be doing ramping group damage. The way to remove it from play is for the fixated player to kite the ad into one of the canisters in the room. At the start of the fight, you'll notice that there are 4 canisters that are static. As they are consumed, players will need to be aware of the location. Once you've used all 4 canisters, one will spawn randomly throughout the fight, so be sure you're keeping track of it to minimize group damage for your healer. Besides that, all you're doing is dodging large swirls, and eventually, the high Adjudicator will fall. Lord Chamberlain operates in a very similar fashion to how he used to. First, he's going to start with the Tank Buster that deals ramping damage over the course of an 18-second duration. Tanks can either mitigate the front half or the back half of this damage. The rest of the fight will have players dealing with Chamberlain's statues. He will occasionally toss one in the direction of a player indicated by the arrow on the floor. This will deal near lethal damage if struck, and when it lands, it'll deal sonic damage to all party members. Not only is it important to not get hit, but it's also important to not throw one statue at another statue, causing it to bounce, dealing multiple instances of sonic damage that can be lethal. Chamberlain will occasionally cast a large frontal. Obviously, just avoid this. Last but not least, when Chamberlain reaches 70% health, he will cast Door of Shadows, teleporting him into the center of the room. Shortly after, he will call all the statues to him and then push them away in a set cardinal direction. During this, players will want to move and stand in between him and the statues. He will channel Ritual of Woe, which will deal damage to the first player intercepting the line between the statue, or it'll deal AoE damage to your party if unsoaked. Players will want to spread out and soak each line and use healing ZDs. This will happen once more when the boss is brought below 40% health, so keep dodging statues, frontals, and eventually Chamberlain's reign will end. And that just about covers it. Enjoy your time running around the grounds of Halls of Atonement once again. Until next time.